Hello and welcome to the Quincy Access Television Studios. I'm Mark Crosby. Thank you for joining us for Crime Watch, a program that helps you to stay safe. Joining me today from the Quincy Police Department is Captain Ralph Willard. We have a big topic to discuss today, a topic that you'll certainly want to pay attention to, and that is pedestrian safety. So, Captain, I want to first thank you for coming in to Quincy Access Television and welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and hopefully you will be no stranger to QATV and stop by quite a bit on various topics. I thought we should address pedestrian safety kind of as an initial topic to bring you into the studio, because there have been increased pedestrian accidents,
Yes.
not only in the city of Quincy, surrounding communities as well. And you would agree?
Oh, yes, yeah, definitely.
I guess a good way to kind of start the program would be to maybe give some statistics as to pedestrian accidents, and unfortunately there have been some fatalities as well.
Yeah, so far in 2024, we've had, as of the other day, a total of 43 pedestrian accidents, which is a little bit up, I would say, from last year. We had a total of 49 in 2023. Unfortunately, one of those accidents this year was early on in January, and it was a fatal accident. The majority of them were minor. About 33 out of the 43 were either no injuries or minor injuries. So, if we're going to have an accident, we're hoping that's going to be the case. Also, between pedestrians and bicycles, we've had about 38 bicycle accidents in 2024, which is kind of a big jump from 2023. We only had a total of about 25 last year. We're not really sure why the numbers have gone up so much.
Maybe people are using bikes more?
It could be, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and we try to kind of look at everything to figure out, the numbers tell you one thing, but we want to look at every incident and try to figure out why each individual incident happened. So that's one thing we try to do. Fortunately, this year none of those accidents were fatal, and most of them were minor or no injuries, which is good. Back in 2023, we unfortunately did have 2 fatal bicycle accidents out of a total of 25. So we never want to see that, but we do the best we can with trying to curb that.
Also, I suppose it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, just increased vehicle traffic within the city as well.
Yes, yeah, that goes along with it.
Are there areas in the city that are more susceptible to accidents?
There's really no hotspots I can name as far as particular addresses. The crashes, both pedestrian and cyclists, have been kind of spread out all over the city. The areas that you would expect, like busier streets like Hancock Street, and more congested areas like Quincy Center, any busy congested intersection, you'll see them more often, but they can happen anywhere, any small side street, and like I said, they're really spread out. So we've had a number on Hancock Street, but it's really been like the length of Hancock Street, not a particular area.
Some city initiatives, I know this as a result of having some city councilors, ward councilors in. Mm-hmm. Some initiatives have been kind of a flashing beacon at crosswalks that is another level of alertness.
Yeah, that's a newer system that's been used in the past few years. The technical term for it is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a blinking light. So they go over crosswalks, and they're manually activated. So you walk up, you press the button, and the lights start blinking. And the lights are really just an attention getter for drivers. There's no extra regulation that goes with the lights. It's really just to alert the oncoming drivers that there's someone at the crosswalk waiting to cross. So you hit the light, hopefully wait for the traffic to stop, and off you go.
I know I said that we'd start the program with statistics. Mm-hmm. The main push of this program is to keep people safe, is to tell them what to do to not become involved in an accident or a fatality, even worse. Let's talk about what pedestrians should do to remain safe.
Well, the most important thing is the crosswalks and the traffic signal lights, they're out there as tools for you to use.
I'm going to stop you 1 second and just kind of remind you what you told me coming in here.
Yes.
That there was a pedestrian crossing within yards of a crosswalk in front of you. Just coming in here today, decided not to use the crosswalk.
Yeah, it's raining today. This gentleman was wearing a black raincoat with his hood up. There was a crosswalk about 30 feet, 30, 40 feet from where he was, and he decided to cross the street and right in front of me. Now, fortunately, I saw him, I stopped, but maybe he's not that lucky next time. Maybe he gets somebody who's looking at their cell phone and not paying attention. So we see it all the time. We want drivers to behave safely and follow the rules, but pedestrians and cyclists really need to do it themselves to protect themselves.
So you mentioned wearing something other than black,
Yes,
so be noticeable.
So, at night or in bad weather, you want to have, and I'm guilty of it too. I think every jacket I own is black, so.
Well, that's a style thing.
Exactly. So, you want to be as visible as possible. So if you're walking at night or in bad weather, bright clothing, at night, even having some kind of reflective gear on or a light maybe, we do find that that's a big factor, visibility. In fact, I think it's actually the second leading factor in accidents is just the people not being visible.
We talked about crosswalks. Obviously, it goes without saying, but again, we'll say it, sidewalks, where possible.
Whenever possible, use the sidewalk. If you find yourself in a spot where you can't use the sidewalk and you're walking, you want to walk against traffic. So you want the traffic coming at you to be on your side so you can see them coming. That's an important thing, and to give you a chance to react to what they're doing, step out of the way, that sort of thing. If you're walking with the flow of traffic and the traffic is behind you, they're coming up on your back and you won't see them.
The importance of staying alert,
Yes.
especially in the day of texting.
Yes. It's funny, if I were to go down the street to City Hall and stop someone walking by and dare them to walk through Quincy Square blindfolded, they're going to tell me I'm crazy, that's too dangerous, right?
But they do it.
Well, that's the thing. That same person might very well walk through the square staring at their cell phone the whole time. And those two situations are not all that different. And we have had accidents, some very surprising, where people basically walk right out into traffic while they're looking at their cell phone. So it's a dangerous thing.
So you have that aspect, looking at your device,
Yes.
but also earpods.
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm guilty of. If I go for a walk, I'll listen to music, but I'm very aware of it. So whenever I cross a side street or anytime there might be traffic coming up behind me, I always stop and make sure to look around extra. But yeah, that's a distraction. If you've got earphones on, you have to pay much more attention to what's going on instead of zoning onto the music and not looking around. So.
And I think it's worth saying you don't have to have the music so loud that you can't hear any other noise around you.
Right. Yeah. So if somebody leans on the horn, or if you hear a car coming, you want to be able to pick it up.
Impairment, alcohol, marijuana.
Yeah, going both ways, or all three ways, whether it be operating a motor vehicle, riding a bicycle, or just out for a walk. That's bad news because you're not paying attention, you're not making sound judgments, your reflexes could be less than they should be. So it's definitely a bad idea to do anything while you're impaired by drugs or alcohol.
Let's continue with the basics and just talk about the correct way to cross a street.
Okay, so like I said, the best thing to do is to use whatever safety devices are available to you. Crosswalk, the lights. So if you have a crosswalk with lights handy, hit the button, wait for the lights to activate, and then the really important thing in there, I think, is to watch the traffic and wait for them to stop, okay? Because once that light activates, you have the right of way to go, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every car is going to stop for you. So you want to make sure they stop, or they see you when they come to a stop before you try to cross. Because if you step out into moving traffic, those lights aren't going to protect you. So you have to use them properly. And if you're going to cross somewhere, if there is no crosswalk available, the best spot to look for is a place that has really good visibility in both directions. So like a nice straightaway would be good, so you have some space on both sides of you. You can look left and right and left again and see what's coming.
And you had mentioned kind of giving yourself some space, so that brings up the thought of crossing between parked cars.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're gonna, you never want to just step out from between parked cars, because the most important thing is you want to be visible to anybody driving down the road. So if you're going to step off the sidewalk between two parked cars and cross, the first thing you want to do is make sure that if there's anybody in those cars. There's always a chance somebody could be parked and go to pull away as you step out. So you want to just, if there's someone in the car, make eye contact, make sure they see you, and so they know that not to pull away with you in front of their car. And basically you want to step up to the edge of the parked cars where your feet meet the street. So you can then kind of lean out, be visible to anybody driving by. You can see the traffic going by. And then, once you have a clearing and you think it's safe to go, you do what you would normally do if there were no parked cars. Look left, right, and left again, and then proceed with caution. And when you're crossing, you still want to be looking because, you might think a car is far enough away that you have time, but it's kind of hard to judge speed at a distance. So you still want to be looking back and forth. You don't want to be looking at your phone or anything like that until you get where you're going.
And as you pass driveways, be aware that you're passing a driveway.
Definitely. One problem that we have when a lot of accidents occur is when motor vehicles are pulling out of a driveway or out of a side street, out of a parking lot. And what happens is that a lot of times, if you're the driver and you're pulling out and you want to take a right-hand turn, you're looking to the left to see the oncoming traffic. And it may take 10 or 15 seconds before you get, your window of opportunity to go. So people are watching. Okay, I've got it. They go and they turn right. Well, during the time they've been looking left, somebody came walking along, either walking along or on a bike, and they happen to walk right in front of the car just as they make the turn, and they're not prepared for it.
I guess talk about the importance, you kind of touched upon this, of making eye contact with a driver.
Yes, yeah. So it all comes back to, you want them to know that you're there. And then you want to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, which is stop for you. So one of the best ways to do that is to, look them right in the eye if you can. And now you know that they see you just as you see them. So that's a good idea if you can.
We're going to turn, I do want to talk about bicycles, and we will get to that in a moment, but I do want to turn to drivers now.
Okay.
And first on my list is look out for pedestrians everywhere and at all times.
Yeah. So that's just a given. Especially that's important always, but it's especially important if you're driving in bad weather or at night, in a congested area where there's going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic, around schools when schools let out. We all know the situations where there's more likely to be people on the road, so you want to be very very careful about that.
Slow down and be prepared to stop when turning or otherwise entering a crosswalk area.
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of the accidents that we have happen under kind of three different circumstances: when a car is turning, when it's starting off from a stop position, and then in the more congested areas like I just mentioned. So when cars are turning, we'll quite often see what I just described with pulling out of a parking lot. But other things that happen is when a car is on they're on the main road and they want to take a left-hand turn into a side street, they're watching the cars coming, and again, they're waiting for their window of opportunity. They're not necessarily watching for someone on a bicycle. And what will happen sometimes is that, a car might even stop to let them go. Driver thinks, okay, I'm good to go, I've got my opening, and they don't see the bicycle come up from behind that car and they end up cutting the bike off. So that's one problem. And
I guess the other thing, one of the things I'm thinking too, and getting back to pedestrians,
yes,
is that if there's two lanes going in one direction,
yeah,
and one car stops at a crosswalk, you have to make sure as a pedestrian that the other lane
right, yeah,
car is going to stop.
We see that all the time with even with motor vehicles more often. Like you say, you've got two lanes coming your way and you want to maybe take a left-hand turn, and one car stops for you, and for some reason everybody forgets about that second lane and they make the turn, and whoever they didn't see coming doesn't see them, and there ends up being an accident. So yeah, whenever there's multiple lanes, you really want to make sure that you've got your eyes on both lanes and both lanes of traffic that could possibly come your way.
Never pass vehicles stopped at crosswalks,
yeah,
because again of what you just said,
yes,
and what can happen. Never drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Makes sense?
Definitely, that's a given. Yeah.
And be extra cautious when backing up and look for pedestrians. So we talked about pedestrians being aware of driveways and parking lots. We're telling drivers now to be aware of pedestrians in these locations as well.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has to really kind of have a heads up of what's around them, whether you're walking, driving, riding a bike. Everyone has to be aware of that.
We're recording this program, we should mention, in October, so school has been in session for about a month.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go over the rules for stopping for school buses.
Okay. So we all see them on the road every morning and every afternoon. You'll see the bus, you're either behind it or you see it coming your way, and the yellow lights start flashing. That's just a warning that, okay, we're going to be making a stop.
Doesn't mean for the driver to speed up.
No, it doesn't mean to speed up. It's just like any other yellow light. You should be slowing down and preparing to stop. And then once the bus does stop, they put out they turn on the red lights, they put out the stop sign, and then you're not going anywhere until the kids get off And they shut the light off, put the sign back, and once the bus starts moving is when you should go. You should really wait for the bus to go back in motion, because you never know, even though the bus driver might be done with what they're doing, you never know when one of those kids might try to run across the street either way. So that's, we have to be aware of that with children. Sometimes they don't make the best decisions. So us as adult drivers, we have to be prepared for that.
I think children are fearless.
Yes, exactly.
I think, and this brings me now to the time of day. So when school is in session, drivers should be aware of when kids get picked up at the bus stop, when they get out at the end of the day.
Yes, yeah. So morning time, when, the hour and a half span, kind of window when the kids are on their way to school and when they're coming out are the times that you want to be really, especially, if you know that you're in a school area, you want to be especially aware of that.
We touched upon this. We will dive into it more. We will talk about bicyclists and kind of the rules for them as they navigate the city streets.
Yeah, so someone riding a bicycle, they're just another vehicle on the road. So they have to follow the same rules as any driver has to follow. They have to stop at red lights and stop signs. They're supposed to yield to vehicles when they're in situations when they're supposed to yield. They're supposed to yield to pedestrians.
They're also supposed to signal.
Yep, they're supposed to signal, hand signals. And they're also supposed to go with the flow of traffic. So that's the opposite of pedestrians. If you're on a bicycle, you're supposed to be going with the flow of traffic, not against it.
So if you're a bicyclist and you're traveling with traffic,
yes,
and there's a red light, you stop.
You are supposed to, yes. Quite often we see that people don't. I'm sure anyone listening to this right now has seen multiple times when they might come to a pause, but they see they're opening and they go through the red light. Unfortunately, one of the more serious bicycle accidents we had involved a gentleman going through a stop sign. So that can be the result. That's what we don't want to see.
I know the city of Quincy has been proactive with regard to bike lanes.
Yes.
Talk about those, and also talk about what that requires drivers to do.
So there's two different symbols that you'll see on the road. One is for a bike lane and the other is for a bike route. Okay, so the bike lane will be marked with a little stencil of a bicycle with a person on it, and you'll see that on the right-hand side of the road. And very often that lane is also cut off from the rest of the road by a solid white line. So that's a bike path. Bicycles use them. Motor vehicles are not allowed to go with them. The only time a motor vehicle can go into a bike lane is if they're turning across it. And of course, they have to use the appropriate amount of caution when they're doing that. So, and you'll also see on the road symbols for bike routes. And that's basically a picture of a bicycle with two arrows kind of pointing ahead of you. And you'll see those on the regular lanes that motor vehicles travel on. And that is to just let you know that stretch of road is a bike route. And it's just to say that that's a section where bicycles will often be. Now, you're allowed to use that lane, but that symbol is to caution you that there's probably going to be bike riders around, and you have to be aware of that and share the lane with them.
Helmets.
Yes.
I want to say that not everyone thinks they're fashionable. They have become quite fashionable as of late. We're talking about safety.
Yes.
And we're talking about head injuries,
yes,
which are extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a very simple accident, just a bump, where a person maybe just gets knocked over on their bicycle, can turn into something very, very serious if they're not wearing a helmet. If you hit your head on the ground, who knows what's going to happen? So, anyone 16 or under is required to wear a bicycle helmet, but really, anyone who is on a bike should just have one on. It's common sense that you want to protect yourself if you fall down.
And getting back to the bike lanes, I suppose the driver etiquette when it comes to the lane, you had mentioned, obviously, don't be on top of it.
Yes.
Obviously, when you have to make a turn, you do have to go over it. Just be aware of bicyclists, because increasingly folks are deciding to use their bikes.
Yes, yeah. So if you're planning to turn across a bike lane, you do have to yield to any bikes that are coming either way. So,
and as a bicyclist, certainly you want to be aware, just like we mentioned pedestrians. So you don't want to have I don't know how these people would do it, text.
Yeah.
But certainly they might find a way to be able to text and ride at the same time. Again, the earpods being important as well.
Sure. Yeah, you don't want to have anything on where you don't want. Obviously, you don't want to be looking at your phone. I suppose if you had it mounted on the bicycle, you could look at it. I don't know how you would do it otherwise, but you don't want to be looking at your phone. If you're going to use ear pods, like you said, you want to keep it low enough where you can hear the traffic around you. Probably not a good idea to wear them in general, but you don't want to limit your own senses. So you know what's going on.
And that gets to what we had addressed before, alcohol consumption and possibly marijuana.
Yes.
Any impairment.
No, yeah, you don't want any kind of impairment when you're riding a bicycle because think about what it takes. It's your balance, your reaction, everything comes into play. So you don't want to put yourself at a disadvantage.
And talk about outfitting a bike: reflectors, lights, both.
I would say, yeah, I would say both are a great idea. Especially if you're going to be riding at night, you want to have reflectors on it, a light, anything to make yourself more visible is a great idea.
Again, light color clothing.
Yeah.
Toss the black aside.
Yeah, don't borrow any of my jackets if you're going to go for a bike ride. The neon colors, the neon green. Like I said, anything to make yourself more visible is a great idea because, when you think about being on a bike any time of day, bikes they're much smaller than cars. They're silent, but they can be just as quick as a motor vehicle. So you can easily catch an motor vehicle operator who maybe isn't paying attention. You could easily catch them off guard. With bad results. So
they are silent, but I do remember, it might be our era, where did you ever put playing cards in the spokes to make it sound like a motorcycle?
Sure.
And actually, we say bicyclist, but of course, any motorcycle operator has to adhere to the same rules and regulations.
Yeah, I think yes, motorcycles definitely, but I think anyone riding a bike, they need to remember that they have to follow the same rules as if they were driving a car. And the funny thing is that, any one person they're a pedestrian one day, they're a driver the next day, and they're a cyclist the third day.
Absolutely.
A lot of people do everything. But when they go from the car to the bike, they forget that they have to follow the rules, or they should be following the rules. So that's kind of a problem because we've had some of our more serious bicycle accidents have involved violations by the bike rider. You never want to say that, whenever you have a pedestrian or cyclist involved in an accident, they're the one that's going to get hurt. And you never want to say, oh, the guy that got hurt, it's his fault. But sometimes that's true. We don't like it, but that does happen. So that's something people need to be aware of.
And a driver needs to almost anticipate the moves of a bicyclist. And what I'm thinking of is, what if there's a pothole that suddenly the bicyclist needs to avoid?
Sort of around it, yeah. Yeah, so anytime you're around passing somebody on a bike or around somebody on a bike, you do want to be extra aware of them and extra cautious because, like you say, they might have to make a quick move that maybe they don't intend to. It wasn't their plan, but like if a pothole or something comes up, they might have to jog to the left or right. So yeah, you kind of need to be ready for that.
And I guess lastly, before we leave bicycles, make sure your bike is well maintained. And what I mean about that is have the brakes checked probably every season, right? Check the brakes and the tires.
Yeah, I would say so. That's a great idea. Your safety and well-being depends on this piece of equipment. So if it's out of whack, if something isn't working properly, you could have an accident just based on that, or it might limit your maneuverability, that sort of thing. So that's something you want to be aware of.
And something we didn't address, but certainly can fall into, I think, the same rules that a bicyclist would follow. And that's any kind of, I suppose, skateboard or powered device.
Yeah, we're seeing so many different devices out there now, from e-bikes to scooters, and it's really hard to keep track of them all because they come out with a new one every week. But it's the same general rules. You want to make yourself visible. Don't do anything surprising. Don't do some silly maneuver out of nowhere that's going to catch a driver by mistake. You need to, the drivers are responsible for watching out for them, but you have to give them a chance too, that you can't go out there like a daredevil and expect people just to, to be able to get out of your way. Something that, pedestrians and cyclists alike need to remember is that, the people out there driving cars, hopefully they're all licensed drivers, right? But every driver is different. Some people, while they're all licensed to drive, some people are honestly just better drivers than others. We know that, right? Some people are going to have better vision. Some people are going to have better reflexes. It doesn't mean the ones that don't shouldn't be driving, but we all have a different skill level. You have to be aware of that. You can't just expect that every person driving a car is going to react exactly the same way.
Sure.
So just something to keep in mind.
I haven't seen this recently, but I know last year, for lack of a better word, there were gangs of cyclists that would weave in and out of traffic and do stunts. Clearly not right.
Very bizarre, and you see it. We haven't, we've had a few calls in Quincy like that, but we haven't seen it a ton. But every once in a while, you'll see a kid. Not even when I'm working, I'll be driving around in my hometown, and I see a kid going down the middle of the road doing a wheelie. It's like, what is he thinking? Maybe they're doing it for the thrill of it. They want to get the attention. They don't think anybody can tell them what to do. But it's all super dangerous. You have to be aware of that. So.
Great show. This is a great show. A lot of great advice. I want to thank you, Captain, for coming in.
Okay.
Certainly, there's a lot to gather from this program, and I know the residents certainly will appreciate this topic being addressed.
Very good. Well, thank you for having me in.
Thank you. We'll see you possibly on another day with a different topic.
Great. Thank you.
And thank you at home for watching. You have been watching Crime Watch. I am Mark Crosby. Just please remember to stay safe and support the local access television station in the community in which you live.